Welcome to another program in the EC2 series on education care. Over time, there have been many different ways of looking at children and education. People have treated children like miniature grown-ups who had to dress, talk, and work like adults. There were also times when children were considered to be blank pages upon which only good words had to be written for them to turn into good people. A child was like a tulip bulb. Just give it water and sunshine and it will develop all by itself. The philosopher who preached this theory in the 18th century, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, was the first to write about the different milestones in child development. It is said about him, however, that he left his own children on the doorstep of an orphanage. Recently, in schools around the world, we have focused on the abilities of a child and we look at the options and opportunities the child has. Teachers ask themselves how this student, in this situation, can achieve the best possible results. Their task is to help the student develop by being aware of what contributes and what may hamper the student's development. We call that the action-oriented approach. The care coordinators and guidance officers in our schools organize the education care a child may be entitled to. This is a relatively new task and therefore they receive training from the EC2 on an ongoing basis. This coaching is given by Mr. Eric Adema, who is a senior advisor at the Catholic Pedagogic Center in Holland. Eric is a former teacher and principal who specialized in the action-oriented approach. Prior to Eric's visit, the care coordinators were asked what they wanted Eric to work on specifically for them. Because each school is at a different stage of implementing education care, Eric had to tailor his workshops for the different needs. Miss Margaret Child wanted to focus on communication in the daycare center. At Sacred Heart, teacher Jamila Burkle asked for assistance with making the group plans. Miss Maria Janse wanted to address the topic of differentiation at Saber Comprehensive, and for the youth development program, Connie Atkins asked for information on individual development plans. We'll start with Eric's visit to the Laura Lindsay Daycare Center.
One of the first things we were doing was walking around and show how the daycare works. And I was very impressed what I saw there because there was so much structure in it. The children were working in corners at station and the teachers were giving all their attention to those 3 or 4 kids working in that corner, and they were observing and they were playing with the children. Something else I saw is that the environment, the classroom the children were worked in, was very rich. There was a language, there were work of the children, and you could say that it was in all 3 rooms there was that same structure. So there was a vision about how to deal, how to learn those young kids. That wasn't really the problem that Margaret was asking me for. She had a kind of problem with the communication in the team. And that doesn't mean that there was no communication, but the communication in the team wasn't about the care for the children. It was more about cleaning up, or especially not cleaning up. And when we were visiting the classroom, I mean with the 3 or 4-year-olds, there was a wonderful scheme about the daily routine for the children. And it was with pictos and photographs, so every child, even what was 3 or 4-year-old, could see on the wall what he or she might do at what moment. And so I thought that might be also a nice idea to do something with that for the teachers, for the caregivers, because they also have their daily and weekly routine. So that would be the subject for the meeting with the caregivers. Something else that I was discussing with Margaret, that there were, when you want to have it as a team as a team, there must some moments that you can build the team. And that doesn't go by its own. You have to arrange and to organize it. So Margaret made the plan up and she presented to the caregivers at the beginning at the meeting. And this year, in 2013, the accent will be on building a team. Because she said, and that's a nice motto, we are making the difference, and that's the caregivers themselves. So we're going to plan some formal and informal meetings where the caregivers can meet each other, can learn each other about their things they like, and that was what Margaret was asking and doing. And she also asked the caregivers to bring in some input for those meetings. And then we discussed the daily routine, and it wasn't about the daily routine itself. The more interesting part of that meeting was that there was an exchange between the different groups and between the teachers within the group about how do you think and what do I think, and it was wonderful to see. And I think that was a big step for this year to arrange and to facilitate the teachers to exchange their opinion and vision based on something very practical upon the child.
Since Eric visits, we have got our communication skills going well. We have tried a social evening, which was fun. And we have team meetings, more team meetings. And we intend to have lots of social gathering every end of the month. And we are having also a daily routine we are working on for teachers, so everyone know what they are supposed to do.
At the Sacred Heart School, Jamila asked for more guidance on working with group plans. In a group plan, the teacher writes how to work with the students in 3 different groups based on whether they need extra instruction or work independently or just need a few pointers for the given task. Planning can be done for the use of materials, addressing different learning styles, and how the children work together.
I was for a whole day at Sacred Heart. First I talked to the IGO, Jamila, about the plans. They're working with group plans, and we were discussing about the quality of the plans, what is missing, what had to be adjusted. And then we were discussing that a plan is a plan, but it's all based on what's happening in the classroom. So after that we have a visit in the classroom, and we do it, we call it a walk-through classroom visit. It's you only go into the classroom for 5 minutes and you focus on something you want to see. And I was looking at the way teachers are differentiating, or I was also looking at the involvement of the kids. Well, what I saw at the Sacred Heart School is that the children are very good in very able to work by themselves, to working independently, and that's a major principle to make it possible to differentiate. Because when children can't work by themselves, then you, as a teacher, can't work in different groups. And I also saw that the classrooms were very well organized, and the teachers were giving instruction. What I missed was that they were not differentiate in different groups with a few children at the table, but that might be a next step. And after that I discussed with the principal, with Diane, and also with the IGO Jamila, what to do during the team training. And then I noticed that they were making plans, and I started with almost a half year ago. But making a plan, when you're making a plan and you're executing the plan, there must be a moment of reflection and evaluation, because then you have the information for the next term, for the next period. So we decided to make the team training very practical and to use the time to have an exchange between the teachers based on what their outcomes were of the evaluation. We used a kind of a checklist and a format, and there was a wonderful discussion between teachers about making plans and what to put in it and what adjustments to make. And afterwards I discussed with Diane and Jamila again, and they were also very content with what we have been achieved in that moment. And the next step for the Sacred Heart School is to fill in a planning and a plan itself, not based on what is happening in the group, but more for the total school organization. That's what we're going to do. And we're doing it for 2 years, 3 years.
During Eric Adama's last visit, our teachers focused on the implementation of using group plans. Group plans will enable teachers to meet the needs of students based on their level and the differentiated work that is being administered in each class.
At Seba Comprehensive School, the focus was on working together to address the various needs of the students.
I had a meeting with Nadine, the department leader of the Form 1, 2 and 3, and with Maria, the IGO, the care coordinator. And we were talking about, especially about the students in Form 1. And there's a lot of difference between those students and the teachers, all the teachers and the mentor involved in the students for Form 1 are facing some difficulties to how to differentiate for those students. So we were discussing what would be a next step, and in my opinion the next step was to give some information about differentiation, realizing that they already had those information, but especially talking about those information and talking about differentiation. And we only had an hour and a half, but there was an intensive discussion about problems, but mainly also the challenges. And it was nice to see that almost every teacher involved in that Form 1 had the same idea that we have to deal with those students and we have to make the best of it. And yes we can, almost yes we can, but we only can when there is an exchange between the teachers. We have to arrange more meetings where we are talking together about ways we can differentiate about the educational needs of those students.
We talked about this was a study planner, and I made a study planner. So this is what I want to do. This is what you do when you've done all that and you're done. But I mean, it's up to you. It's your responsibility. This is what you can do if you want more practice.
The levels of and the other things that come along with the ethics of work, skills, etc. There's such a variety within that group that it takes a lot of time, I think, to prepare your lessons, to get it ready, and if you are differentiating, it will consume a lot of your time.
Differentiation isn't a dirty word. What we're trying to do is to try as much as possible to challenge the difference between all those students. And that's what the teacher is in charge. It's the teacher who matters. But to differentiate and to deal with all those difference between the students, you have to think, but what do I want to achieve with the lessons? What do I want to achieve this term? And that asks for a good preparation, and especially communication between all those teachers who are involved and are responsible for all the students, in particular in this case in Form 1.
After the workshop with Eric, we are more focused on differentiation in our school. He put it on the agenda again, and that is very important for the students, of course. We plan to make group plans for the students and individual plans for those students who need it.
The SKJ is the Social Youth Development Program meant for students who have left school without a formal qualification. These students can have a second chance for a diploma. Because they each have different starting points and different goals, Connie Atkins, the care coordinator, needs to make a personal plan with all participants.
For the adults at the SKJ project, there has to be an individual developmental plan. It's a demand of the inspection. The inspection was here last year, and they had in their report mentioned that there is no learning or development route for the students, and therefore there is also not a goal-based program. And that's one of the main problems at the moment at the SKA, to develop plans for each individual student for the during of the project, and that's 24 months at the maximum, because you have to know at what level, at what skills, for what skills you want the student to be reached at that 24 months. And one of the questions they had, and by Connie Atkins asked me, help me with a format and help me with lining out the content of the plan, what has to be in such an individual developmental plan for each. And that's the first step. There's also a new director, Latoya, and she is, I heard, started 2 weeks ago for her, so it has to be the discussion, what framework can we set up to improve the SKA project. So yesterday afternoon we discussed first what has to be done, and our first discussion, our first conclusion was we draw up a format with content of an individual developmental plan, setting goals for each student, and when we know the goals for the 2 years or for the long term and the goals for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months in the midterm and in the short term, then it's possible to construct a program. And when there's a program, then it's possible for the teachers to find out what materials are needed, what methods, how can we provide proper instructions for the individual students. It's sometimes a dilemma, because some students think when they join the SKA they can reach the level from high school. But some of them have left comprehensive school without any certificate or diploma, how you say it in English, they didn't finish the school. So sometimes they have the level Form 1 or Form 2. So it's not realistic to suppose that in 12 months or 24 months of education they will reach the level of high school, for example. But it's also very important to find out what he or she wants to do after those 24 months, because sometimes it's more important to focus on communication skills rather than math skills. Because when you want to be a guide or want to do something with diving, for example, then math is less important than communicate or cooperate with colleagues. And therefore the intake is very important.
Since Eric's visit here, I've been able to really develop a clear understanding of how to come to clear, realistic goals for our students. That's helpful to me in being able to create a good education plan for them, a good developmental plan for them in clear terms, and help them then to go step by step to reach their goals.
This week was a wonderful week. It was the same as last year, very intensive, but that made it also unique, because it's a unique setting to have all the IGOs of a total educational system on the island together. And we have made some major steps. But what became apparent after the week, especially when we're drawing conclusions, is about transition. And there is a transition between the internal care and the external care, and especially there is also transition between daycare to Sacred Heart, and from Sacred Heart to comprehensive, and from comprehensive to SKA. And one of the outcomes of this week, and that's very, very, very important and nice to hear and to see, that there have been made arrangements between the teachers and the IGOs of the different schools to work on those transition. For example, there are teachers from kindergarten that go to daycare, and for daycare they go to kindergarten. And there has been an arrangement between the IGO of the comprehensive school and the IGO of the SKA, and that is a result of this week. And also there has been thought about the internal and the external care, because there is a kind of dilemma. It's too big to say dilemma. We have to find a balance between the informal way and the formal way between internal care and external care. And they have decided to have meetings with the IGOs in the same setting we were this week to speak and to discuss, and or better say, have a dialogue about the transition, internal care and external care.
Along with Eric, we all came to the conclusion that communication is so important when working with students. It is one of the principal roles of the IGOs to coordinate the communication between their teachers, between the schools, and between the internal and external care in the CART. It is in the best interest of the children that we exchange our experiences and learn from each other. We can share information in order to provide student care as soon as the students need it. The EC2 tries to help teachers and parents look at the opportunities the students have. We have a variety of programs that help the teachers understand the level of the children and their education needs. We assess students when they move from one school to the next, and we have a team of experts to work with the care coordinators on a monthly basis. We hope you enjoyed this program and feel informed on how the schools work with students nowadays. If you have any questions or remarks, please visit us at St. John's, call us on 416-3809, or check out our Facebook page and website. Thank you for watching EC2 TV.